Welcome back to The Quiet Drift. If you enjoy Willow's story, don't forget to subscribe to The Quiet Drift. You'll get a notification whenever a new episode is released.
May 31st, 2026.
The late afternoon sun, a low, burnished coin, begins its gentle descent toward the western treeline, casting long, liquid gold across the surface of the cove. You watch from the narrow cockpit of the Myra as the light, thick and honeyed, stretches across the water, illuminating the gentle sway of the kelp beds just beneath the surface, revealing their deep, mossy greens and coppery browns. Each small ripple on the water's skin becomes a fleeting, sparkling calligraphy, catching the light and scattering it in 1,000 tiny, ephemeral diamonds that dance and shimmer with the boat's soft motion. The golden light climbs the weathered planks of the dock, softening the gray grain, highlighting the delicate purple of the lavender in its clay pot and the sturdy green needles of the rosemary beside it. Then it spills onto the Myra's foredeck, painting the aged teak with a warmth that seems to seep deep into the wood itself. You can almost feel the deck absorbing the day's heat, radiating a subtle, comforting warmth back into the cool air. The brass fittings on the mast, usually dulled by salt and time, gleam with a renewed brilliance, catching the sun's fire and holding it for a lingering moment before releasing it. Chester, curled in a perfect circle on the foredeck, a patch of white fur on his throat like a small, distinguished cravat, is entirely subsumed by this golden embrace. His red-orange fur, usually so vibrant, now seems to glow with an inner light, each strand illuminated, making him appear almost ethereal, a creature of pure sunlight and soft warmth. His breath is a slow, steady rise and fall, a quiet rhythm of contentment, and the tips of his ears, twitching occasionally, are like tiny amber flags in the breeze. You notice the way the light picks out the fine, almost invisible hairs along his spine, creating a halo around his sleeping form. A faint, briny scent, carried on the air, drifts across the cove, a blend of salt and damp earth, of sun-warmed pine needles from the surrounding forest, and the subtle, elusive fragrance of the sea itself. It is a scent that has become as familiar and as comforting as the rhythm of your own breath, a signature of this quiet corner of the world. It mingles with the fainter, sweeter notes of the lavender and rosemary from the dock, creating a complex, grounding perfume that settles around you like a soft shawl. Above, the rigging whispers a hushed, melodic story to the arriving evening. The halyards, taut and slender, hum a low, resonant note against the mast, a gentle counterpoint to the softer, more irregular creaks and groans of the hull as it settles into the water's embrace. It is a language of wood and rope and wind, a song as ancient as the sea itself, and you find yourself listening to it not as discrete sounds, but as a single, harmonious presence that enfolds you. The air itself feels alive with these small, subtle vibrations, a constant, gentle symphony of the natural world. Beyond the narrow channel that opens to the sea, a cormorant, a dark, elegant silhouette, perches motionless on a distant, wave-worn rock. It holds its wings slightly akimbo, drying them in the lingering warmth, a stoic sentinel against the vast, open horizon. You watch it for a long moment, noticing the stillness of its form, the way it seems to absorb the last rays of the sun, becoming one with the rugged landscape. Its presence is a quiet reminder of the wildness that lies just beyond the sheltered embrace of the cove, a wildness that is both distant and intimately connected to this peaceful haven. The light begins to soften, the sharp edges of the day blurring into a more diffused, painterly quality. The shadows, once crisp and defined, lengthen and deepen, stretching across the water and up the wooded headland, transforming familiar shapes into something more mysterious and profound. The air, though still holding the day's warmth, begins to hint at the cool clarity of the approaching evening, a subtle shift that you feel not just on your skin, but deep within, a quiet turning of the day's page. You lean back against the weathered coaming of the cockpit, feeling the smooth, sun-warmed wood against your back. A quiet sigh escapes you, a gentle release of the day's small, unhurried tasks. The world outside the Myra seems to narrow, to distill itself into these simple, powerful sensations. The play of light, the scent of the air, the symphony of the rigging, the steady presence of Chester, the distant, silent cormorant. Everything feels perfectly aligned, a harmonious convergence of elements that brings a deep sense of peace. Your gaze drifts toward the small island that sits like a green jewel in the mouth of the cove, just before the channel opens to the sea. The question that lingered from last night, a wisp of a memory, begins to unfurl itself in your mind, gentle as a frond of kelp in the current. Was it truly a light you saw there, a faint, ephemeral glow in the deepening twilight, or was it merely the trick of an oil lamp aboard a distant fishing boat, or the reflection of some bright star on the water, distorted by the subtle mists that sometimes cling to the air? You remember the feeling of quiet curiosity it evoked, not alarm, but a soft, almost wistful wonder. The island is usually a silent, uninhabited presence, a wild tangle of salal and spruce, home to only the gulls and the occasional deer. The idea of a light there, however faint, however fleeting, was like a whisper of a secret, a gentle ripple on the otherwise placid surface of your days. You had resolved to ask Walter about it, to see if his quiet wisdom might offer an explanation, or perhaps merely a shared moment of wonder. The thought of Walter brings a small, warm smile to your lips. His presence on the headland, a steady, unhurried anchor in this world, is a source of quiet comfort. He is a man who carries the history of this place in his bones, in the deep lines around his eyes, in the slow, deliberate cadence of his voice. You imagine him now, perhaps sitting on the porch of his stone cottage, watching the same sun descend, his own quiet thoughts unfolding in the twilight. The light on Chester's fur begins to soften, the brilliant gold fading to a richer, deeper amber as the sun dips lower. He stirs faintly, a soft twitch of his tail, but remains in his golden slumber, a perfect embodiment of peace. You resist the urge to reach out and stroke his fur, allowing him his undisturbed repose, knowing that he will seek out your warmth and presence when he is ready. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the sun-drenched air wash over your face, listening to the soft, rhythmic lap of the water against the Myra's hull. It is a sound that has become the lullaby of your life here, a constant, reassuring pulse that speaks of depth and movement, of stillness and enduring presence. Each tiny wave that meets the smooth curve of the hull seems to sigh, a gentle exhalation of the sea itself. When you open your eyes again, the sun has dipped perceptibly lower, its disk now touching the ragged edge of the distant treeline. The golden light, though still potent, has begun its transformation into the deeper, richer hues of dusk. The sky above, a vast canvas of deepening blue, is beginning to receive the first faint brushstrokes of evening, a pale, almost translucent lavender spreading from the eastern horizon. You watch as the last sliver of the sun's brilliant face slips beneath the trees, painting the western sky in a spectacular, fleeting display of fiery orange, rose pink, and deep violet. The air around you seems to hold its breath for a moment, as if in reverence for this daily, sacred transition. Then, as quickly as it came, the most intense colors begin to fade, blending into softer, more subtle shades, leaving behind a lingering warmth that promises a serene and star-filled night. The small question about the island light, though not urgent, continues to float in the quiet spaces of your mind, a gentle thread connecting yesterday to tomorrow. You decide that after you have finished your evening meal and tidied the small galley, you will take the path up to Walter's cottage, perhaps with a small offering of freshly baked bread, and simply ask him. The thought is a comforting one, a small, unhurried plan that adds another layer of gentle anticipation to the unfolding evening. You reach for the small, leather-bound book you had left on the seat beside you, its pages slightly fanned by the afternoon breeze. The words within are a continuation of the quiet dialogue you have with the world, a deepening of your understanding of the patterns and rhythms that govern this secluded existence. But for now, the book remains closed, its wisdom waiting patiently for the deeper shadows of night. The air has grown cooler, carrying with it a crispness that speaks of the vast, open spaces beyond the cove. The scent of wood smoke, faint and distant, curls on the air, perhaps from Walter's chimney or from a campsite further up the coast. It is a smell that evokes images of warmth and shelter, of hearth and home, and you feel a quiet gratitude for the simple comforts that define your life here. Chester finally stretches, a long, languid extension of his orange body, his claws gently kneading the deck. He yawns, a tiny, silent opening of his pink mouth, and then, with a graceful, unhurried movement, he uncurls himself from his sun-warmed nest. He fixes you with a slow, amber gaze, a silent question in his eyes, before arching his back and then settling himself at your feet, a warm, purring weight. His presence is a deep, anchoring comfort, a silent promise of companionship in the unfolding evening. The last vestiges of the sun's direct light have vanished, leaving behind a twilight glow that softens the edges of the world. The distant cormorant has lifted from its rock, a dark arrow against the fading sky, heading toward some unseen roost. The world is settling into its evening quiet, a symphony of diminishing sounds and deepening shadows. You know that soon, the stars will begin to prick through the velvet darkness, each one a tiny, brilliant eye watching over the sleeping cove. And with them, perhaps a whisper of a moon, a sliver of silver light, will begin its slow ascent above the eastern trees. The light, filtering through the small portholes of the Myra, has begun to soften, casting a warm, buttery glow across the varnished teak. You watch as Willow moves with an unhurried grace, her hands, accustomed to the rhythm of the boat, finding purpose in small, familiar tasks. The scent of salt and damp wood is a constant companion, a subtle perfume that weaves through the air, occasionally joined by the faint, comforting aroma of wood smoke from the cast-iron stove. You notice the quiet efficiency of her movements as she takes up a length of rope that has been loosely coiled on the small folding table. It's a mooring line, slightly frayed in one spot, and she intends to splice it. Her fingers, nimble and strong, begin to work the strands, separating them with a practiced ease. The rough texture of the rope against her skin is a subtle sensation, a reminder of the practicalities of life on the water. Each twist and interweaving of the fibers is deliberate, a small act of care and preservation. You can almost feel the smooth, worn surface of the rope as it passes through her hands, becoming whole again under her steady attention. Chester, ever the silent observer, is curled on the foredeck, a patch of late afternoon sun having found its way to his favorite spot. His orange fur seems to absorb the golden light, making him appear even more radiant, a small, vibrant splash of color against the muted tones of the boat. His eyes, half closed, occasionally flicker open, following Willow's movements with an air of detached interest before drifting closed again. The gentle rise and fall of his chest is a testament to the profound peace that has settled over the cove. Willow hums a low, tuneless melody as she works, a soft, almost imperceptible sound that seems to blend with the gentle lapping of water against the hull. The Myra herself seems to breathe with these sounds, a living entity cradled by the sea. You hear the faint creak of the mast, a whisper from the rigging as a light breeze rustles through the cove, carrying with it the earthy scent of the surrounding forest. It's a tapestry of quiet sounds, each thread contributing to the serene atmosphere. As she finishes the splice, testing its strength with a firm tug, you see her glance toward the small propane galley. Her thoughts are already shifting to the evening meal. She opens a locker, retrieving a ceramic bowl with small blue flowers painted on its rim, and then a few small potatoes and an onion from a canvas bag hanging nearby. Her hands move to the copper kettle on the stove, checking the water level. A small fire crackles within the cast iron, a tiny furnace radiating a comforting warmth that chases away the lingering chill of the fading afternoon. You watch as she peels the potatoes, the small, sharp knife moving with precision. The thin curls of peel fall into the ceramic bowl with a soft asterisk thwip asterisk, each one a testament to the simple act of preparing sustenance. The onion, when she slices it, releases its pungent aroma, a sharp counterpoint to the softer smells in the cabin. She dices them with care, her movements slow and deliberate, as if each cut is a meditation. There's a small, almost imperceptible detail that catches your eye as Willow works. On the galley counter, nestled amongst her spices and a small jar of sea salt, is a piece of driftwood. It's smooth and bleached white, shaped by the relentless work of the ocean into a graceful, curving form. She picks it up, turning it over in her hands, her thumb tracing its contours. It's something she's seen countless times, a small, familiar ornament, yet today she notices the faint, almost invisible striations in the wood, like the lines on an old map. They tell a story of journeys and currents, of distant shores and silent depths, a silent narrative held within the unassuming piece of wood. It's a small reminder that even the most familiar objects hold hidden depths, waiting to be rediscovered. Her gaze drifts out of the porthole, across the still water of the cove. The surface is like polished glass, reflecting the deepening blue of the sky and the dark green of the trees that fringe the shore. A heron, a silent sentinel, stands motionless on the opposite bank, its long neck poised, its reflection a perfect mirror image beneath it. The only movement is the gentle sway of the Myra, a barely perceptible rocking that lulls the senses. Willow places the vegetables into a small cast iron pot, adding a splash of water from the kettle and a pinch of salt. The lid clangs softly as she places it on top, sealing in the flavors. The stove, a small, glowing heart in the center of the cabin, continues its gentle murmur, a quiet promise of warmth and comfort. Her attention then turns to the two clay pots on the dock, just outside the companionway. One holds a bushy lavender plant, its delicate purple flowers just beginning to unfurl, and the other, a fragrant rosemary bush. She steps out onto the weathered planks of the dock, her bare feet accustomed to the cool wood. The air is cooler now, carrying a distinct maritime freshness that invigorates the senses. You watch as she picks up a small, dented copper watering can, its surface gleaming faintly in the diminishing light. She fills it from a rain barrel tucked against the side of the Myra. The water gurgles softly as it pours, a liquid whisper. Then, with a slow, even motion, she waters the plants. The earthy scent of damp soil mingles with the sweet, herbal fragrance of the lavender and rosemary, creating a delightful blend that hangs in the air around her. She gently brushes her fingers across the rosemary leaves, releasing a burst of its pungent, comforting aroma. It's a small ritual, a connection to the earth, even in this watery world. As she tends to the plants, you notice the way the setting sun catches the tiny droplets of water on the leaves, turning them into shimmering jewels. The world around her is alive with these small, luminous details, each one a testament to the beauty of the natural world. Returning to the cabin, Willow pulls a small, worn blanket from a hook near the berth and drapes it over the back of the wooden folding chair on the dock. The evening air, though still mild, will soon carry a chill, and the blanket offers a promise of continued comfort outside. She sits for a moment, letting her gaze sweep across the cove, taking in the deepening shadows and the fading light. The world is slowly preparing for night, and she feels a deep sense of belonging, a quiet contentment that settles over her like a warm cloak. Her mind drifts back to the faint, ethereal light she thought she saw on the island last night. Was it just a trick of the mist, a play of moonlight on water, or something else entirely? The question, though not urgent, lingers at the edges of her thoughts, a soft thread of curiosity. She made a mental note to ask Walter about it tomorrow, a small mystery to ponder in the quiet hours before sleep. It's a question that doesn't demand an answer, but rather invites a gentle contemplation, a whispered possibility. Chester, roused by her presence on the dock, stretches luxuriously, his claws extending and retracting with a soft snick against the deck. He then hops down, rubbing against Willow's legs with a low, rumbling purr, a tactile expression of his quiet affection. She reaches down, stroking his soft fur, and he leans into her touch, a warm, vibrating presence. The purr deepens, a soothing rhythm that resonates through the quiet of the cove. The air grows cooler still, carrying with it a faint, briny tang from the open sea beyond the channel. The sounds of the forest begin to shift, the daytime chorus of birds giving way to the deeper, more resonant calls of evening creatures. A lone owl hoots in the distance, a haunting, beautiful sound that echoes across the water. Willow stands, gathering the watering can, and steps back into the companionway. The small cabin feels like a sanctuary, a warm, inviting space in the encroaching twilight. The fire in the stove casts dancing shadows on the varnished wood, making the cabin feel even more intimate. She closes the hatch, a soft thump sealing the outside world away, though the sounds of the cove still filter in, softened and muted. She takes a moment to straighten a stack of books on a built-in shelf, her fingers brushing against the worn spines, each one a portal to another world. The titles are a mix of nautical charts, old novels, and volumes on natural history. You imagine the countless hours she has spent immersed in these pages, the quiet companionship they offer. As the potatoes begin to simmer on the stove, releasing a comforting, earthy aroma, Willow reaches for a small wooden box on a shelf. It contains her watercolor supplies. She opens it, revealing the neat rows of paint tubes, the delicate brushes, and a stack of small, blank canvases. Her fingers trace the cool, smooth surface of a canvas, a silent invitation to capture the beauty of the world around her. She doesn't begin to paint yet. This is a moment of quiet anticipation, a gentle preparation for a future act of creation. The possibilities held within that blank surface are endless, waiting for the inspiration that the changing light and the quiet of the cove might bring. The light outside is now a deep, ethereal blue, the last blush of sunset fading from the western sky. The stars, one by one, begin to prick through the velvet darkness, tiny pinpricks of light in the vast expanse above. The oil lamp hanging from a brass hook casts a soft, steady glow, illuminating the cabin with a warm, inviting light. It's a world apart from the harsh, electric glare of modern life, a world where light is precious and carefully tended. You watch as Willow places the wooden box back on the shelf, her hands moving with a fluid grace. She then turns her attention back to the stove, stirring the contents of the pot with a wooden spoon. The aroma of the simmering potatoes and onions fills the cabin, a simple, wholesome scent that promises a nourishing meal. Chester, having followed her inside, leaps onto the narrow sleeping berth in the bow, circling a few times before settling down in his usual spot at the foot of the berth. His eyes, now wide and luminous in the dim light, watch Willow with an almost regal air. The soft fabric of the blanket, a familiar comfort, yields to his weight. Willow pauses, her hands resting on the edge of the galley counter. She looks out one of the small portholes, toward the deepening darkness of the cove. The faint glimmer of the moon, just a sliver, is beginning to rise above the trees, casting a silvery sheen on the water. The question about the light on the island still whispers in the back of her mind, a gentle enigma. She decides she will definitely ask Walter tomorrow, when the sun is high and the world feels clear and bright. For now, the quiet beauty of the approaching night, the warmth of the stove, and the gentle rhythm of the Myra are more than enough. The unanswered question is not a source of worry, but a quiet companion, a thread of curiosity that gently pulls her toward the new day. The sun, a vast, molten disk, begins its slow descent toward the western horizon, visible through the narrow mouth of the cove. You watch as the world outside the Myra's sheltered haven transforms, bathed in the extraordinary spectacle of a Pacific Northwest sunset. The light, which moments ago was a warm, golden wash across the water and the forest canopy, deepens and intensifies. First, the gold ripens, spreading like honey across the surface of the sea. Each ripple, each gentle swell catching the light, seems to hold a tiny, shimmering coin. The ancient firs and cedars that ring the cove, so dark and stoic through most of the day, now catch the fiery glow on their uppermost branches, their needles transformed into 1,000 tiny, burning embers. A gentle breeze, carrying the scent of salt and pine, stirs the water, creating a mesmerizing dance of light. You find yourself drawn to the bow of the Myra, leaning against the cool, smooth wood of the mast. The boat, usually a world unto itself, now feels like a silent observer, rocking gently on the tide, sharing in the quiet reverence of the moment. Chester, who had been curled in a patch of fading sun on the foredeck, stretches languidly, his orange fur catching the last direct rays, making him glow like a small, living ember. He yawns, a tiny, silent expression of feline contentment, then settles back down, his eyes half closed, perfectly at peace. The golden light slowly, imperceptibly shifts, bleeding into a soft, glowing orange. This isn't the harsh, bright orange of a campfire, but a mellow, deep hue, as if the sun itself is a giant, perfectly ripe fruit. The sky directly above the horizon becomes a canvas of this rich color, while higher up, the blue begins to deepen, creating a stunning gradient. The water in the cove reflects this change with exquisite fidelity. Where it was once a glittering gold, it now holds the muted, burnished tones of old copper. The reflections of the trees, once sharp and distinct, soften at their edges, blurring into the deepening color. A silence settles over the cove, different from the quiet of the daytime. It is a profound, expectant hush, as if all of nature holds its breath, witnessing the sun's grand farewell. The distant cry of a gull, a sound usually so crisp, seems muffled, softened by the encroaching twilight. You notice the air growing cooler, a subtle shift that prickles the skin on your forearms. The warmth of the day, held within the wood of the Myra, within the stones of the headland, begins to recede, exhaling into the evening. The orange deepens further, then, with a painter's delicate touch, begins to blend into shades of rose and tender pink. These are not vibrant, shocking pinks, but the soft, delicate blush of a seashell or the first petals of a spring flower. They spread across the western sky, painting streaks and swathes of breathtaking beauty. Wisps of cloud, previously unnoticed, now catch these ethereal hues, transforming into feathered strokes of color against the deepening blue. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated beauty, fleeting and precious. You feel a gentle ache in your chest, a feeling of deep gratitude for this unspoiled corner of the world, for the privilege of simply being here, witnessing such grandeur. Willow watches, her gaze fixed on the horizon, feeling the subtle shift in the air, the way the breeze now carries a distinct chill. She pulls her simple wool shawl tighter around her shoulders, its familiar texture a small comfort against the evening's embrace. The Myra creaks softly, a lullaby of wood and water, as if the boat itself sighs contentedly. The pinks deepen, then begin to fade, dissolving into a deepening lavender that streaks across the sky, mingling with the last vestiges of orange. The transition is so gradual, so seamless, that it's almost impossible to pinpoint the exact moment one color gives way to the next. It's like watching a masterful watercolor painting being created before your very eyes, each wash of color blending perfectly into the last. The water below, no longer reflecting direct light, takes on the deep, mysterious indigo of twilight, a liquid mirror of the darkening heavens. The first star appears, a tiny, brilliant pinprick of light, almost shy in its appearance. It flickers briefly in the deepening blue, a promise of the vast, unseen universe beyond the familiar confines of the cove. You breathe deeply, drawing in the cool, clean air, heavy with the scent of pine and the crisp tang of the ocean. It's a scent that has become utterly entwined with the feeling of home, of belonging. The last sliver of the sun dips below the horizon, and with its final disappearance, a profound change washes over the landscape. The vibrant colors recede, leaving behind a sky of deep, velvety blue. This is not the bright, clear blue of midday, nor the pale, ethereal blue of dawn. This is the rich, encompassing blue of dusk, a color that holds secrets and promises. The trees that ring the cove, no longer catching the sun's direct light, become dark, monolithic silhouettes against the fading sky, their jagged peaks like teeth against the heavens. The air grows colder still, carrying with it a distinct dampness that hints at the coming night. You can feel the chill seeping into the wooden planks of the dock, into the very stones of the headland. It's a gentle, natural cooling, a part of the day's inevitable cycle, and it brings with it a desire for the warmth and comfort of the Myra's cabin. More stars begin to emerge, timid at first, then bolder, dotting the vast expanse of the sky like scattered diamonds. The Milky Way, a faint, luminous band, becomes visible, a celestial river flowing silently overhead. You tilt your head back, gazing up at the immensity, feeling a familiar sense of wonder, a quiet awe at the sheer scale of it all. This is a world where the stars are not competing with electric lights, where their ancient glow shines unimpeded, a beacon in the deep dark. The sounds of the cove shift too. The daytime chirping of small birds has long since given way to the hoot of a distant owl, a mournful, rhythmic call that echoes softly through the forest. The gentle lapping of water against the hull of the Myra seems louder now, more pronounced in the profound quiet. It's a constant, soothing rhythm, a heartbeat of the cove. Willow stands there for a long moment, simply absorbing the transition, letting the beauty and the quiet wash over her. She thinks of the faint light she saw on the island last night, a small, curious flicker in the encroaching darkness. Was it a trick of the fading light, a brief reflection, or something else entirely? The question, gentle and persistent, resurfaces in her mind, a quiet counterpoint to the peace of the sunset. She decides she will ask Walter about it tomorrow, when the sun is high and the world is clear. For now, the mystery remains, a soft, unanswered question nestled within the growing darkness. The last vestige of twilight fades from the western sky, leaving behind a deep, impenetrable black. The line between the dark water and the dark forest, and the even darker sky, blurs, becoming a seamless, encompassing void. The only visible distinction now is the shimmering canopy of stars, a breathtaking display that seems impossibly close, impossibly bright. The temperature continues to drop, urging her back towards the warmth of the cabin. She feels the familiar weight of Chester brush against her legs, a soft, purring presence, signaling his own readiness to retreat indoors. The full dark has arrived, wrapping the cove in its silent, star-dusted embrace. The last blush of the sun has long faded from the western sky, leaving behind a deep indigo that gradually softens to black. You watch as Willow, with a quiet, practiced grace, reaches for the small box of matches tucked into a brass holder beside the main companionway. The air inside the cabin is cool now, carrying the faint, sweet scent of the sea mingled with the dry warmth of old wood. She strikes a match, the sudden flare a tiny sun in the gathering gloom, and touches it to the wick of the oil lamp hanging above the folding table. A soft, golden light blooms, pushing back the shadows, transforming the small space of the Myra's cabin. The varnished teak bulkhead seemed to sigh, absorbing the amber glow, reflecting it back in a myriad of gentle, shifting patterns. Every curve and grain of the wood comes alive, imbued with a rich, honeyed warmth. You watch as the light dances on the polished copper pots hanging from their hooks near the galley, each one catching a spark, glinting like a hidden treasure. The ceramic dishes with their small blue flowers, stacked neatly in a rack, seem to hum with a quiet charm under the lamplight. The world outside the thick hull of the Myra fades into an indistinct murmur of lapping water and the whisper of the wind through the rigging. Here, within the cocoon of the cabin, is a sanctuary of warmth and soft illumination. Shadows stretch and sway with the gentle rocking of the boat, making the space feel alive, breathing with you. The glow from the cast iron wood stove, though not fully lit, holds a residual warmth, a promise of comfort for the night ahead. Willow moves with an economy of motion, her hands knowing each surface, each latch, each familiar object. She reaches for a small, chipped ceramic mug, its handle worn smooth by countless uses, and pours herself a cup of steaming herbal tea from a small enamel pot kept warm on the galley stove. The aroma of peppermint and chamomile drifts through the air, soothing and familiar. You notice the delicate steam curling upwards, catching the lamplight like fine silver threads before dissipating into the cabin's warmth. She settles onto the narrow settee, her movements unhurried, a quiet contentment in her posture. Chester, who had been curled in a tight ball on the foredeck, his orange fur almost invisible in the deepening twilight, suddenly materializes at the companionway. With a fluid, silent leap, he lands softly on the settee beside Willow, purring a low, rumbling song that vibrates through the very wood of the boat. He needs a moment at the wool blanket draped over the back of the settee before settling into a soft mound of fur, his eyes half closed in sleepy satisfaction. The rhythm of his purr becomes another quiet heartbeat in the cabin, a gentle accompaniment to the lapping water against the hull. Willow sips her tea slowly, her gaze drifting around the cabin, touching on the worn covers of the books tucked into the shelves built into the hull, the small, framed watercolor of a lone lighthouse she painted last summer, the intricate knot of a macrame plant hanger holding a small fern near the portlight. Each item holds a memory, a story, a connection to the quiet life she has built here. For her evening meal, she prepares something simple and nourishing. From a small larder, she takes a round loaf of dense, dark bread, still faintly warm from the morning's baking. She slices it carefully, the knife making a soft, rustic sound, and arranges the slices on a small wooden plate. Beside it, she places a bowl of hearty lentil stew, simmered gently over the galley stove throughout the afternoon. The rich, earthy aroma of vegetables and herbs fills the small cabin, a comforting scent that speaks of sustenance and home. You watch as she pauses, her hands resting on the edge of the table, her head bowed for a brief moment. A silent prayer of gratitude, a quiet acknowledgement of the day's blessings, offered in the soft lamplight. Then she begins to eat, her movements slow and deliberate, savoring each bite. The simple meal feels profoundly satisfying in this quiet space, eaten in the gentle company of Chester's soft purr and the rhythmic sway of the Myra. After her meal, Willow carefully washes her few dishes, placing them back in their rack. The small sounds of ceramic clinking softly, the gentle splash of water, are clear in the quiet. Then, she reaches for a book from one of the shelves. It's a worn copy of Ancient Myths, its pages soft and yellowed with age. She opens it to a familiar place, her finger tracing the lines of text, though she doesn't immediately begin to read. Her gaze seems distant, thoughtful, as if she is listening to something beyond the confines of the cabin. A faint, almost imperceptible creak comes from the bow, a sound so subtle it might be mistaken for the boat settling or the soft working of the hull against the water. But Willow stills, her head tilting just slightly, her eyes, still holding that distant look, now narrow, focused inward. You follow her gaze, though there is nothing visible to see. It's a sound she knows well, a particular resonance that sometimes emanates from the forward sleeping berth, a sound not quite of the boat itself. Her eyes drift towards the narrow opening of the berth in the bow, obscured mostly by a hanging curtain woven from natural fibers. A thought unbidden seems to surface. She remembers a day, many months ago, when she was cleaning the berth, airing out the mattress. She had found something then, tucked deep beneath the mattress, almost forgotten. A rolled chart, brittle with age, tied with a piece of faded twine. It wasn't a chart of these waters, nor any she recognized from her own journey up the coast. And on it, marked in faint pencil, were small crosses, a series of them, like a trail leading across an unknown expanse of sea. She had put it back, almost instinctively, without unrolling it fully, without truly examining it. A quiet instinct had told her to leave it be, for now. Now, in the gentle lamplight, the memory of that chart, with its mysterious pencil marks, resurfaces with a surprising clarity. She wonders, not for the first time, whose hand made those marks and what they signified. Was it the hand of the previous owner of the Myra, or someone else long before her, who had perhaps sailed these waters, or other, more distant ones? The thought lingers, a wisp of a question in the quiet air. And then another detail, small and almost forgotten, floats into her mind. The old tin. She remembers finding it tucked away in a small, hidden compartment near the bilge pump, a place she rarely needed to access. It was a simple, rectangular tin, tarnished with age, its lid stiff to open. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, were letters, not one or two, but a small stack tied with a narrow ribbon. She had seen the elegant script, the faint impression of names on the envelopes, but she had never opened them. A quiet respect for the privacy of lives lived long ago had stopped her. Why had those items been left behind? The chart, the letters, it wasn't the kind of forgotten detritus one usually found on an old boat, cleaned out and prepared for a new owner. These felt deliberate, hidden, almost like a trust. She had often wondered about the Myra's previous life, about the people who had sailed her before. Walter, in his quiet way, sometimes spoke of whoever was here before, but he never elaborated, never offered names or details, as if respecting an unspoken boundary. The gentle rocking of the Myra continues, a soothing cradle. The lamplight casts long, dancing shadows on the bulkheads, making the small cabin feel vast and ancient. Chester, now fully asleep, lets out a soft little snore, a tiny puff of air from his orange nose. Willow's gaze drifts towards the hull, just above the waterline, where she knows, if she were to lean close enough, she could still discern a faint, almost erased name. It wasn't Myra, it was another name, scratched into the wood, just visible beneath layers of paint and varnish. A woman's name, she thought, though the letters were too faint, too worn to be certain. These were the quiet mysteries of the Myra, the unspoken histories woven into her very timbers. They didn't alarm her or fill her with dread. Instead, they brought a gentle curiosity, a sense of connection to the unseen lives that had touched this boat before her. It was as if the Myra herself held secrets, whispered in the creak of her timbers, in the silent sway of her mast. You watch as Willow closes her book, placing it carefully on the small folding table. Her hand rests for a moment on the smooth, cool wood of the table, feeling the subtle vibrations of the boat, the distant murmur of the sea. She thinks of the island, shrouded in darkness now, beyond the narrow channel. The faint light she had seen last night, a mere flicker in the distance, had been so brief, so ethereal. Was it real? Or a trick of the mist and her own imagination? The memory of the chart, the letters, the faint name on the hull, now blends with the image of that distant, fleeting light. They are all threads of an unseen tapestry, woven into the fabric of this quiet place. She makes a silent promise to herself, a gentle intention forming in her mind. Tomorrow, when the sun returns, she would ask Walter about the light on the island. And perhaps, when the moment felt right, she might even ask him about the Myra's past, about whoever had been here before. The questions hover in the lamplit air, soft and unanswered, like the distant call of a night bird. The last sliver of twilight has vanished, leaving the cove in a deep, inky embrace. Inside the Myra, the soft glow of the oil lamp casts a warm, buttery light, dancing across the varnished teak and the gentle curve of the hull. But you are drawn to the world beyond the portholes, to the quiet majesty of the night unfurling around you. You push open the companionway hatch, the familiar creak of wood a soft sigh in the stillness, and step out onto the deck. A cool, damp breath of air greets you, carrying the clean, sharp scent of salt and the deeper, resinous fragrance of the surrounding firs. Above, the sky is a vast, velvet canvas, studded with a million pinpricks of light. The stars, unobscured by any distant city glow, are shockingly bright, their brilliance reflected in the still, dark water of the cove. Each tiny point of light stretches into a shimmering streak on the surface, a broken mirror of the heavens above. You watch as these reflections seem to pulse and shift with the subtle undulations of the water, a silent, cosmic dance just for you. Across the cove, perhaps 400 meters distant, the island is a deep, impenetrable shadow, a hulking mass against the slightly less dark horizon. Its outline is softer now, blurred by the encroaching darkness, but you can still sense the ancient trees that stand sentinel upon its shores. There is a profound silence out here, broken only by the natural symphony of the night. The gentle rhythm of water lapping against the Myra's wooden hull is a constant, soothing lullaby, a whisper of the vast ocean beyond the narrow channel. It's a sound that has become as familiar as your own heartbeat, a deep, resonant thrum that speaks of constancy and flow. Above you, the wind, a barely there breath, stirs the rigging. The mast, a tall, dark sentinel, sways almost imperceptibly, and the halyards tap a soft, irregular rhythm against its sturdy wood. It's a percussive counterpoint to the water's gentle murmur, a quiet song of the Myra's readiness, even in repose. A distant owl calls, its mournful hoot echoing across the water, a sound both lonely and comforting in its wildness. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sounds wash over you, feeling the cool air on your skin. When you open them again, you notice a subtle shift in the air, a thickening of the atmosphere. A delicate, ethereal mist is beginning to weave its way into the cove, a thin veil of fog unspooling from the dark edges of the forest. It drifts across the water like a phantom, softening the harsh edges of the world, transforming the familiar into something more dreamlike. The reflections of the stars become a little hazier, diffused by the nascent fog, and the dark mass of the island seems to recede, becoming even more mysterious, a whisper on the edge of visibility. You lean against the smooth, cool wood of the cabin, feeling the gentle rock of the boat beneath your feet. Chester, roused by your movement, has padded silently onto the deck, a sleek orange shadow, and now rubs himself against your leg with a low, rumbling purr. You reach down to stroke his soft fur, feeling the warmth of his body, the vibration of his contentment. He is a comforting presence, a silent companion in this quiet world. This life you have chosen in this sheltered cove, aboard the Myra, feels like a deep, satisfying breath after holding it for a very long time. There is a profound sense of gratitude that settles over you, a warmth in your chest that spreads through your limbs. It's not a boisterous, exultant joy, but a quiet, abiding peace, a deep contentment that hums beneath the surface of every day. You remember the feeling of constant motion, of always searching, always moving before you found this place. Here there is a stillness, a rootedness that you had not known you craved until it enveloped you. The solitude here is not lonely, it is expansive. It offers space for thought, for observation, for simply being asterisk. You watch the fog curl and twist, a living entity weaving itself into the fabric of the night. You listen to the creak of the boat, the distant owl, the murmur of the water, and you feel entirely connected, a part of this ancient, rhythmic world. There is a sense of being held, cradled by the land and the sea, in a way that feels both protective and liberating. The choices that led you here, the reasons you slipped away from whatever lay behind you, are less a burden now, more a quiet memory. This place has a way of dissolving the sharp edges of the past, softening them into something less urgent. You are not running from anything here, but rather running to something. To simplicity, to silence, to the raw, unvarnished beauty of the natural world. This small wooden boat, rocking gently on the water, feels more like home than any place you have ever known. You think of the quiet kindness of Walter, his knowing gaze, the way he simply accepted your presence here without question. It's a rare and precious gift, this unburdened acceptance. And you think of the small, quiet mysteries of this place, the faint light on the island, the name scratched on the hull, the rolled chart under your berth. They are not anxieties, but gentle threads of curiosity, woven into the fabric of your days and nights. They add a subtle richness to the quietude, an invitation to observe, to wonder, to simply be open to what might unfold. The fog has thickened now, a soft, cottony blanket that makes the world feel smaller, more intimate. The island is almost completely obscured, a ghostly presence in the swirling mist. The stars, once so brilliant, are now diffused, their light softened to a hazy glow. The air is cooler, carrying the dampness of the fog, and a fine dew is beginning to settle on the deck. You reach down and gently scratch Chester behind his ears, and he leans into your touch, his purr deepening. He is a creature of this place, wild and free, yet choosing to share his days with you. His presence is another anchor, a small, warm weight in the vastness of the world. You feel a profound connection to this animal, to this boat, to this cove, to the ancient trees that ring the shore, and to the quiet rhythm of the tides. This feeling, this deep well of peace and quiet wonder, is what you sought, perhaps unknowingly, when you set sail. It's a feeling of being exactly where you are meant to be, at this precise moment in time. There is no urgency here, no demand for speed or noise. Only the slow, deliberate unfolding of days, the gentle rhythm of the seasons, and the profound, comforting silence of the natural world. The quiet drift of the fog continues, gradually enveloping the Myra, making it feel like a small, solitary vessel floating in a sea of clouds. The sense of isolation is not fearful, but rather a profound embrace, a gentle cocoon. You are outside, yet you feel deeply sheltered. The sounds, too, are softened by the mist, the lapping water, the creak of the hull, the whisper of the wind, all muffled, made more intimate. You consider the light you saw on the island last night and the night before. Was it the fog playing tricks with your eyes, or was it something else? A quiet flicker of curiosity stirs within you, a gentle question that lingers in the cool, damp air. You know you will ask Walter about it tomorrow, when the sun has returned and the fog has lifted. His quiet wisdom, you suspect, might hold some answers, or at least a deeper understanding of the island's own quiet mysteries. But for now there is only the night, the fog, the gentle sway of the Myra, and the profound, unhurried peace of this place. You stand for a long time on the deck, letting the silence and the damp air sink into your bones, feeling the truth of this life settle around you like a warm, heavy blanket. The world shrinks to the immediate, to the small circle of light from the lamp within, and the deeper, encompassing darkness without. You take one more deep breath of the cool, briny air, feeling utterly present, utterly still. The last sliver of the sun dips below the western horizon, painting the sky in hues of deep violet and fading rose. A cool, damp breath rises from the water, carrying the scent of salt and ancient kelp, a familiar perfume that settles in the air around the Myra. Inside the cabin, a gentle warmth emanates from the cast-iron stove, its coals a quiet ruby glow behind the small grate. You watch as Willow, with a soft sigh, slides a final small piece of split fur into the firebox, the dry wood catching instantly with a quiet crackle and a brief, bright lick of flame. The light within the cabin softens, the oil lamp on its brass hook casting a warm, buttery pool over the small folding table and the varnished teak bulkheads. Shadows deepen in the corners, making the space feel even more intimate, a snug haven against the encroaching twilight outside. You can hear the gentle lapping of water against the hull, a rhythmic hush that has become the steady heartbeat of this quiet world. Sometimes, the sound is accompanied by the soft creak of the mooring lines, a sighing of ropes under the subtle shift of the tide. Chester, who had been curled in a tight, ginger ball on the cushion of the narrow berth, stretches languidly. His front paws extend, claws sheathed, then he rises, arching his back in a slow, deliberate curve. He pads softly across the cabin sole, his movements fluid and silent, before settling by the warm curve of the stove. His tail twitches once, a small question mark in the air, then he begins to knead the rag rug with his front paws, a low, rumbling purr starting deep in his chest. It's a sound of contentment, a warm vibration that fills the small space. Willow settles back onto the built-in settee, a thick woolen blanket draped over her lap. The ceramic mug in her hands, still warm from the last of the evening's herbal tea, feels comforting against your palms. You watch her gaze drift to the small porthole above the galley, where the first faint stars are beginning to prick the darkening canvas of the sky. They emerge one by one, shy pinpricks of light at first, then growing bolder, clearer, as the last vestiges of twilight fade. The air outside is perfectly still, and the reflections of the stars begin to shimmer on the black surface of the cove, a scattered handful of diamonds. She doesn't speak, doesn't stir, simply sits, allowing the quiet rhythm of the evening to envelop her. Her breathing is slow and even, a mirror of the gentle rocking of the Myra. The scent of wood smoke, faintly sweet and resinous, mingles with the briny tang from outside, creating a unique aroma that is distinctly this place, distinctly home. You notice the way the lamplight catches the strands of her hair, turning them to spun gold, and the serene curve of her profile as she gazes out. After a long while, she reaches for a book from the small shelf built into the hull beside her. It's a well-worn volume, its cover faded, its pages soft from many readings. She opens it to a place marked by a pressed fern, its delicate fronds a testament to a quiet walk through the forest. Her eyes move slowly across the page, not rushing, but savoring each word, each turn of phrase. The only sound is the occasional soft rustle of a page turning, the gentle crackle of the fire, and Chester's steady purr. Sometimes her gaze lifts from the page, not to look at anything specific, but to simply absorb the stillness. You feel the subtle shift of the boat beneath you, a gentle undulation that is almost imperceptible, a constant reminder of the water that holds this small world afloat. The sound of a distant owl hoots, a soft, melancholy call that drifts across the cove from the forested headland, then fades into the profound silence. You find yourself noticing the small details within the cabin, the way the lamplight gleams on the polished brass of the porthole frames, the smooth, cool feel of the ceramic mug, the intricate grain of the teak paneling. Each element speaks of a life lived simply, deliberately, without haste. There is a quiet beauty in the order, in the way everything has its place, a sense of calm efficiency that is deeply comforting. Willow closes the book, not because she has finished a chapter, but because the moment calls for a different kind of quiet. She places it carefully on the small folding table, beside a half-finished watercolor sketch. It's a delicate rendering of the cove at dawn, the fog just beginning to lift, revealing the dark silhouettes of the trees on the island. Her painting supplies, tubes of pigment, brushes, and a small ceramic palette are neatly arranged in their wooden box nearby. She picks up a small piece of charcoal and adds a faint, almost invisible, line to the sketch, defining the edge of a rock on the island's shore. Her movements are unhurried, her hands steady and precise. You notice how her brow furrows just slightly in concentration, a quiet intensity in her gaze. She is not striving for perfection, but for an honest capture of the light, the mood, the subtle shift of the air. As she works, a thought seems to surface, something that had been lingering at the edges of her awareness since morning. You sense it in the subtle way her hand pauses, charcoal held lightly above the paper. It's the memory of Walter's words from earlier today, when he had stopped by the dock with a basket of fresh eggs. He had been talking about the tides, about the way the currents flowed around the small island in the middle of the cove, and he had murmured, almost to himself, "It always amazed me how the water carved out that little shelf on the north side. Whoever was here before me, they knew just where to anchor to avoid the strongest pull." The words themselves weren't unusual. Walter often spoke of whoever was here before, a gentle reference to the previous inhabitants of the cove, long since gone. But it was the way he'd said just where to anchor. It had implied a deep, intimate knowledge of the cove's hidden contours, a knowledge that went beyond casual observation. A knowledge that suggested someone had spent a very long time here, perhaps even lived on the island itself. Willow doesn't dwell on it, not overtly. There's no sudden gasp or shift in her posture. Instead, it's a quiet thread, weaving its way through the fabric of her thoughts, a soft question mark left hanging in the still air. She continues to feather in a faint wash of gray for the morning mist in her sketch, but the image of that northern shelf, unseen by her, but now conjured by Walter's words, seems to subtly inform her strokes. The fire within the stove has settled into a deep, steady hum, the coals radiating a profound, enduring heat. Chester, fully content, has now stretched out on his side, his purr a low, rhythmic thrum against the floorboards. The only other sound is the soft, whispering sigh of the wind through the rigging, a lullaby from the outside world. She sets the charcoal down, the sketch still unfinished, but enough done for tonight. Her gaze drifts to the porthole again, where the stars now blaze with astonishing clarity, each one a tiny point of diamond light in the velvety blackness. The air feels cool against the glass, but inside, the cabin is a cocoon of warmth and peace. The Myra rocks ever so gently, a cradling motion that speaks of safety and solitude. You watch as Willow closes her eyes for a moment, a small, private smile touching her lips. There is a deep gratitude in that smile, a quiet acknowledgement of the stillness, the warmth, the simple beauty of this life. The distant hoot of the owl sounds again, closer this time, a soft, inquiring call. She opens her eyes and her gaze drifts towards the dark, indistinct shape of the island. In the absolute blackness, it's impossible to discern any detail. But the memory of the faint, almost imperceptible light she thought she saw there last night still lingers, a faint echo in her mind. Was it merely a trick of the fog, a reflection of the moon, or something else entirely? Walter's words about the previous inhabitants, about their intimate knowledge of the island, now add a new dimension to that fleeting glimpse. She doesn't move to investigate, doesn't even consciously pursue the thought. It's simply there, a quiet, unanswered question that drifts through the peace of the evening. Perhaps it was a memory playing tricks, perhaps a passing fisher, though that seemed unlikely in this secluded cove. It's a gentle mystery, one that doesn't demand immediate resolution, but rather invites a quiet contemplation, a soft sense of wonder that can sit comfortably at the edge of sleep. The Myra continues its gentle sway, the water murmuring secrets against the hull. The fire glows steadily, a beacon of warmth. Chester's purr remains a constant, comforting presence. And the stars outside the porthole continue their silent, ancient dance. The light on the island, if it was there at all, is long gone now. But the subtle question it raised, combined with Walter's quiet words, remains a soft, unhurried thread that will carry Willow and you into the deep, restorative quiet of the night. You feel the slow drift towards sleep, held in the gentle rocking of the boat, surrounded by the quiet hum of the world. The deep night settles over the cove, a blanket woven from silence and the damp coolness that drifts in from the open water. You notice how the air itself seems to thicken, pressing gently against the hull of the Myra, silencing the small, nervous rustle of leaves on the headland. It is a stillness that doesn't feel empty, but rather profoundly full, a quiet hum of the world at rest, where every soft sound seems to deepen, to grow richer in its isolation. The fog has begun to creep in, a luminous, shifting veil that mutes the edges of the forest and softens the sharp line where the water meets the shore. You can't see it directly from inside the cabin, but you feel its presence in the subtle drop in temperature, in the faint, earthy scent of damp moss that mingles with the briny tang of the sea. It seeps into the small space around you, a gentle embrace that promises a profound quiet until the sun begins its slow climb again. The only sounds now are those of the Myra herself, a living thing settling into the deep rhythm of the night. There's a soft, almost imperceptible creak from the timbers as the tide makes its slow, inevitable turn, a whisper of wood against water that feels like the boat breathing. The mooring lines sigh faintly against the cleats, a gentle, hypnotic cadence that speaks of unseen currents tugging at the hull. Each sound is a brushstroke on the canvas of the night, adding to the pervasive sense of peace. You watch as the last embers in the cast-iron stove glow a deep, steady red, casting a warm, pulsing light that dances on the varnished teak bulkheads. The heat, too, begins its slow retreat, leaving behind a comforting warmth that lingers in the air, a memory of the fire's earlier vigor. With the small, heavy iron poker, you carefully bank the remaining coals, tucking them under a layer of ash to hold their heat until morning. It's a ritual of foresight, a small act of care that ensures the cabin will greet the dawn with a lingering warmth. The soft clink of the poker against the grate is absorbed by the stillness, a brief interruption quickly swallowed by the night. The oil lamp, hanging on its brass hook near the galley, is turned very low now. Its single flame, a steady, unwavering beacon, casts long, dancing shadows that stretch and sway with the gentle movement of the boat. The light is amber, warm, painting the small cabin in hues of honey and deep umber, highlighting the grain of the wood, the soft curve of the hull. It illuminates only the immediate space around you, creating a small, safe world within the larger, unfathomable darkness of the cove. Chester, who has been curled in a tight ball on the small folding table, a soft mound of ginger fur, uncurls with a languid stretch. You watch as he extends each paw, flexing his claws silently, a picture of feline grace. He yawns, a wide pink cavern, then jumps down with a soft thud that barely registers above the gentle lapping of water against the hull. His steps are silent, a quiet padding on the narrow floorboards as he makes his way towards the sleeping berth in the bow. You follow his lead, moving with an unhurried grace that matches the pace of the night. The small cabin, with its familiar scent of wood smoke, salt, and beeswax polish, feels like a warm embrace. You gather the few items that have been left out: a book, its spine worn smooth from many readings, a small ceramic mug with the remnants of herbal tea, its aroma faint and sweet. Each item is returned to its place, a small act of order in the quiet unfolding of the evening. Your fingers trace the familiar patterns of the ceramic dishes with their small blue flowers as you stack them neatly in the small galley cupboard. The copper pots, gleaming faintly in the low lamplight, hang undisturbed on their hooks. Everything has its place, a testament to the efficient use of space in this small floating home. The movements are practiced, almost unconscious, a rhythm of daily life that brings a quiet sense of satisfaction. You reach for the heavy woolen blanket folded neatly at the foot of the berth. Its texture is soft against your hands, a comforting weight. You spread it over the narrow mattress, smoothing out any creases, preparing the space for sleep. The berth itself is a snug cocoon, tucked into the very bow of the boat, surrounded by the gentle curve of the hull. It is a space designed for rest, for quietude, for the deep communion of sleep. Chester, meanwhile, has already claimed his spot at the foot of the berth. He kneads the blanket with his paws, a soft, purring rumble rising from his chest. The sound is a low vibration, a gentle current of contentment that fills the small space. You can feel the warmth of his body radiating through the fabric, a familiar and welcome presence. He settles down, a perfect orange crescent, his tail curled neatly around his body, his eyes, two luminous pools, watching you with quiet expectation. You slip into the berth, the mattress yielding softly beneath you. The cool linen of the sheets is a pleasant contrast to the warmth of the blanket. You pull the heavy wool up to your chin, feeling its comforting weight, its promise of warmth through the deep, misty hours of the night. The scent of fresh air and salt lingers on the fabric, a reminder of the vast, breathing world outside the small cabin. The sounds of the Myra become even more pronounced now, felt more than heard, a subtle symphony of wood and water. The soft slap of water against the hull directly beneath your head, a steady, rhythmic pulse that lulls the senses. The faint creak of the mast, a whisper of wind through the rigging that sounds like a distant lullaby. These are the ancient sounds of a boat at anchor, the timeless music of the sea. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the stillness of the cove seep into your very bones. The quiet drift of the fog, the slow, deliberate turning of the tide, the steady, warm presence of Chester at your feet, all these elements combine to create a profound sense of peace. There is a deep gratitude that rises within you, a silent acknowledgement of the simple beauty of this life, this sheltered haven. The image of the faint light on the island from the previous night drifts gently into your mind. It was so subtle, so fleeting, that part of you wonders if it was merely a trick of the mist, a momentary reflection of the moon on a damp surface. But another part, a deeper, more curious part, holds on to the memory of it, a small, intriguing spark in the vast darkness. You imagine the island, shrouded in the low-lying fog, its ancient trees standing silent sentinels. What could cause a light to appear there? It's a question without urgency, a quiet thought that floats in the periphery of your awareness. You decide, with the gentle certainty that comes with the approach of sleep, that you will speak with Walter about it tomorrow. He has lived here for so long, knows the cove and the surrounding lands with an intimacy that only decades can bring. Perhaps he has seen such things before, or knows some old tale, some forgotten story of the island that might explain it. The thought of asking him brings a small, comforting warmth, a connection to the quiet wisdom he carries. The lamplight, now dimmed to its lowest possible flicker, casts a final, soft glow across the ceiling of the berth, making the varnished wood shimmer like liquid gold. You reach out a hand, your fingers brushing against the cool brass of the lamp's base, and with a soft click, turn the wick all the way down. The flame shrinks, a tiny star, then winks out, plunging the cabin into a deep, velvety darkness. The darkness is not absolute, however. Through the small, uncurtained porthole above your head, you can discern the faintest luminescence of the fog. It's a soft, diffused light, a pale gray against the deeper black of the night sky, hinting at the vastness of the world outside, even as it cradles you in its stillness. You adjust your pillow, pulling the blanket a little higher, feeling the soft weight of Chester shift slightly at your feet, his purr now a nearly silent vibration against the fabric. The air in the cabin is cool and fresh, carrying the faint, clean scent of the sea, the gentle rocking of the Myra, a subtle sway that has become a natural extension of your own breath, deepens with the turning tide. The world outside the Myra grows even more distant, receding into the soft, comforting shroud of the fog. The sounds of the forest, the distant cry of a night bird, the whisper of wind through the tops of the firs, all these fade into the background, becoming part of the vast, quiet hum of the night. Only the immediate sounds remain, the intimate murmur of water against the hull, the almost imperceptible creak of the timbers, the steady, rhythmic beat of your own heart. You close your eyes, letting the thoughts of the day, the small actions, the quiet discoveries, drift away like leaves on a slow-moving stream. The question of the light on the island, a gentle thread, remains, but it is not urgent, not demanding. It is merely a soft curiosity, something to be explored in the bright light of tomorrow. For now, there is only the profound stillness, the warmth of the blanket, the weight of Chester, and the timeless cradling embrace of the Myra as she floats, suspended between the deep waters and the misty sky. The world narrows to this small, safe space, where every breath is a release, every moment a surrender to the deep, restorative peace that washes over you. The soft wool of the blanket settles over you, a familiar weight that coaxes your shoulders to release, your arms to rest. The mattress beneath you cradles your form, a narrow haven within the curving hull of the Myra. Above, the faint scent of wood smoke still lingers in the air, a ghost of the fire that now breathes only embers in the cast-iron stove. It's a clean, comforting smell, mingled with the subtle salt tang that seeps in from the sea, a constant reminder of the Myra's embrace by the water. You hear Chester, a low rumble beginning deep in his chest, a soft, steady thrum against the foot of your berth. His weight is a warm anchor, a presence both substantial and entirely peaceful. Each breath he takes is shallow, even, a tiny rhythm mirroring your own. You feel the slow, almost imperceptible rise and fall of the boat, a gentle cradle that rocks you deeper into the quiet of the night. It's the sound of water against the hull, a ceaseless, murmuring whisper that truly draws you in, a soft lapping, a gentle sigh, then a quiet slosh as a tiny wavelet passes. It is the very pulse of the cove, the breath of the sea, carrying you away. The oil lamp turned low casts a final, trembling gleam on the varnished teak walls. Shadows stretch and soften, dancing imperceptibly as the flame flickers, then diminishes further. The light is fading, becoming less a visible presence and more a memory of warmth. The world outside the small porthole is a velvet black, unbroken save for the distant, faint shimmer of stars filtering through the high branches of the Douglas firs on the headland. There is no other light, no other sound, save for the intimate symphony of the Myra and the cove. You close your eyes, and the last vestiges of the lamp's glow disappear behind your eyelids. The warmth of the blanket spreads, seeping into your muscles, loosening any lingering hold of the day. The gentle purr of Chester becomes a part of the quiet, a vibrational hum that resonates with the deep stillness. The water against the hull, constant and soft, is a lullaby. It whispers of tides, of currents, of the vast, silent ocean beyond the narrow channel. It is a story told in liquid sighs, in the soft, rhythmic kiss of wood and water. Your breathing deepens slowly, effortlessly, in and out, in and out. Each exhalation carries a little more of the day away. Each inhalation draws in the fresh, cool air of the cove. The air smells of pine needles and damp earth, of salt and sea kelp, a clean, wild scent that fills your lungs and soothes your mind. You are held by the Myra, by the cove, by the ancient forest, by the deep, dark sky. The quiet deepens. The sounds of the Myra become softer, fainter, receding into the edges of your awareness. The creak of a timber, a tiny shift in the mooring line, a distant hoot of an owl from the forest. All these sounds are gentle, weaving themselves into the fabric of the night, not disturbing but deepening the sense of peace. The world outside narrows, shrinks until it is only this small, warm space within the berth. The warmth, the weight, the quiet, the soft purr, the gentle rock, the water sound, the breath in, the breath out, you drift. Like a small leaf on a still pond, floating, gently, the thoughts of the day begin to loosen their hold. They are not gone, but they are softer, less insistent, like distant birdsong heard from far away. They pass, they pass. The feeling of the blanket, the soft wool, the warmth, the small space, the gentle curve of the hull, a safe space, the soft sound of water, a constant song, a lullaby, the breath in, the breath out, deeper, deeper. Chester's purr, a low rumble, a continuous hum, a warm presence, the weight of his body, a comfort, a stillness, the boat's gentle rock, a slow sway, a rhythm, the water laps, laps, laps. The images of the day drift through your mind, soft and formless. The sun on the deck, the warmth of the coffee cup, the quiet of the forest path, Walter's kind smile, the distant light on the island, a fleeting image, a question. A soft, unhurried thought, not urgent, just there the light. Was it there, or was it a trick of the deepening dusk? A quiet question, not demanding an answer, just a soft presence. It floats, like a feather on the air. The breathing slows, the heart slows, the world outside is vast and still. The stars are burning bright unseen, the tide is turning slowly, silently. The forest holds its breath, all is quiet, all is peace. You are floating. Floating, the warmth holds you, the darkness cradles you, the gentle rock, the soft sound, the steady purr, all around you silence, all within you peace, the small berth, the soft blanket, the gentle boat. The water against the hull, the water against the hull, a steady rhythm, a hypnotic sound, the breath in, the breath out. The image of the island, dark and still, and then a tiny flicker. Was it a firefly, too large, a distant lantern, unlikely, a quiet mystery, a gentle question? You will ask Walter tomorrow. A small plan, a soft intention. Tomorrow is a long way off. Now only the quiet, only the dark, only the drifting, the warmth, the soft purr, the gentle rock. The darkness settles, the quiet deepens, the world narrows to the space beneath the blanket. The breath slows, the mind stills. The last thought drifts, a wisp of smoke, an unhurried whisper. I'll bring Walter some of those fresh-baked biscuits in the morning, and then I'll ask him about the light on the island. And then nothing. Only the gentle, rhythmic sound of water against the hull, carrying you into the deep, quiet dark.
This is the end of today's episode. Did you listen to the whole story? Share your experience in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to The Quiet Drift. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then.